Very high charge, and that's what the president is pushing for tonight, for the destruction of the national and vital installations. The advocate we are speaking to tonight is George Kithi. He now joins me from his chambers. And Wakili, good evening. Good to see you tonight. Obviously, treason is the highest form of a charge. And if you look at Cap 63, especially, you look at Chapter 6, and it boils down to one thing, death. Why would the president opt to go for such a high charge on this?
Well, the fact that there is economic sabotage is what the president is picking on, and instructing that anybody who is arrested for vandalism be charged with high treason. Now, the question is whether the law is prepared to receive that directive from the president. First and foremost, in summary, treason is a crime against the sovereign nation or the sovereignty of the country, either by attempting to sabotage the country in either its economics or anything that the country's sovereign will be destroyed. The other limb, obviously, is overthrowing the government. So there are two limbs to treason. The first is overthrowing the government, which is the most popular definition. The other one is sabotaging the country's sovereign edifice, so that then you harm the country's sovereign. Now, if it is interpreted that economic crimes are treasonable, then we will start probably with corruption. We'll start with other crimes that probably go to the heart of the country's well-being, as opposed to the destruction of property. The crimes that are related to destruction of property in the manner in which the president has brought it is one on malicious damage to property. When you maliciously damage property, it means that you have taken the property from its form and removed it from that form and destroyed it. That is what vandalism is. The other one is theft, that you are stealing metal scrap or metals for scrap and for sale. And that is probably the most that you are going to get close to the law in terms of arrest and prosecution of the people that will be in the directive, on the bracket of the directive of the president. So, as matters stand, the truth is treason is far removed from nexus to what the president has said. The present directive cannot be implemented in the context of charges preferred against the people who vandalized, as the president has complained. Mm-hmm. So if that is if there should be such prosecution, then we need to amend the law and change the law so that then we capture what the president has said. As matters stand, nobody can be tried.
So perhaps the good question, George, then is, was this statement made as a form of deterrence, or there's a possibility that the president can follow this through with amendment of the law to include any perpetrator of economic sabotage in the country?
Yes, if the president then intends that this becomes a crime, then yes, he needs to procure some amendments in Parliament. What he intends. Remember that there is no crime without legislation. So if a crime is to exist, the society or the country must say so through Parliament. Parliament therefore must legislate, and legislate amend the punishment prescribed to that act or omission shall be that of treason, which is death. And therefore, you cannot, it is, as we speak, I don't think Kenyans have perceived anybody who vandalizes should be executed like a murderer, like a robber, a person who robs and uses violence, or commits treason in the context of overthrowing the government or in similar manner. And therefore, it is far removed. And if we want people to be killed, to be executed or hanged because they vandalized, let us change the law. As matters stand, advisedly, the president then must move Parliament, and Parliament must then conform to amendments and conform the directive to the charge of treason.
Okay, George, two more questions, but first, the laws are not retrogressive, they must be progressive. How then do you deal with the current situation when people know that it must be legislated, it has to go through parliament, it has to be law, then they can be sued? So if you want to look back, how do you deal with that? Is this, the purpose of this right now is just deterrence? Because even if you legislate, you cannot look back, you have to look forward.
That is true. I think first the president has expressed anger and emotion, and he will have wanted stiffer punishment for those that commit the crime of vandalism, because probably there's so much loss that the country has suffered. Now, if you look to if you move into legislation, what you look up to is what we call the golden rule, where you look at what the mischief you want to curb. The mischief here is the prevention of vandalism and economic loss, which is what the president is lamenting on. Granted, the president is not a lawyer, but I think he's expressing the frustration that the reports that have been brought before him and the losses. There must have been a build-up of these reports until the president pronounces himself in the manner that he has. So what will be, I think the president expressing himself on is he wants stiffer punishment to people who engage in vandalism. I think that's where we should be heading to, and therefore the Attorney General and those that should take up these instructions must be able to propose law that gives stiffer punishment. I do not think it would be equivalent to treason, because there is no other higher offense than treason
in the country.
And if it is meant to be treason, then I think yes. We should get there, but until Kenyans say it is treason, it is not treason. Until there's legislation, it is not treason. Like you said, all acts that have been committed right now on vandalism, they're not treasonable, because we are not there yet with the law. So even if we legislate now, we cannot look backwards and say you acted treasonably in the past, because the law is not retroactive and it's not applied progressively. Like you put it right, and therefore we need to change the law in. Yes. Okay.
In 30 seconds, we are running out of time. Two things. There are still laws that can address this form of damage of property, yes? And then secondly, now that the 9 officers of Kenya Power have already been taken to court, what happens to them? I know that this law will not be applicable to them, but my interest is, if this is successfully prosecuted, does it open the door for prosecution? The lights go off and my fridge, my food goes bad, I can sue KPLC. Does it open that door? So two things, there are laws that can still address this currently, like malicious damage of property, and secondly, explain to us if this effectively opens the door so that we'll see a lot of actions against KPLC going forward.
I think the problem we have in the country, to be honest, is enforcement of laws.
All right, we have a technical challenge with Wakili there, but as soon as, if we are able to get him and we have time, those are very important questions that he'll need to address.